I want to talk about God's Hall of Fame because he has a Hall of Fame. Some of you are familiar with the Bible, Hebrews chapter 11. We call it the Hall of Fame of faith. And in God's Hall of Fame, it's not like baseball's Hall of Fame, and which one? I know the one in football is in Canton, Ohio. But anyway, we're not talking about the Hall of Fame, the halls of fame that we have here on earth here. See, you have to have the most home runs and stolen bases and strikeouts, or in football, if you have the most rushing yards or receiving receptions and tackles and so forth, or sacks on the quarterback, you can make it to the Hall of Fame. And so in basketball, 3-point shooting and all that kind of stuff, you can make it to the Hall of Fame. But in God's Hall of Fame, it's not contingent upon how great you did here on earth. It's about faith. In God's Hall of Fame, there were exploits taking place. He said that the women had their dead raised to life again. It talks about how that they triumphed over all things. They defied the armies of the aliens. They waxed valiant in fight, and so forth. They did great exploits. Powerful accomplishments. Noah moved with fear to save his family. Enoch was translated. He never even saw death. That's powerful. Abraham was 100 years old having a child. Sarah was 90. Moses forsook the pleasures of sin to be with the children of God. Now that's great. And great exploits took place for that to happen. However, around Hebrews 11, verse 34, 35, 36 in there, it talks about others. See, they're in God's Hall of Fame too. The others were tortured. There were people in God's Hall of Fame who were tortured, not accepting deliverance. They were sawn in two. Literally laid up and sawn in two. Many had their heads cut off. So many things took place. They were mocked and scourged. They were beat. They were whipped and so forth. They didn't get the jets. They didn't get the Cadillacs and the Mercedes. They didn't get the pinstripes and the alligators and all that. They didn't have the greatest congregation. I like Jeremiah. Every time that brother preached, they wanted to throw him back in the dungeon. He didn't have the greatest following, but I guarantee because he was faithful, just like those in Hebrews chapter 11. When you're faithful, you make it to God's Hall of Fame. It doesn't matter how many accomplishments, how much educational experience you have, or how many credentials you have, or how popular you became here on earth. That doesn't add up to anything in the eyes of God. Faithfulness is success with God. Were you faithful to do what he called you to do? If you're a pastor and you had a congregation of 50 people, if you were faithful, you were a success. And if you never gave up, quit, threw in the towel, you fought to the end. If you didn't have all the monies, but every month you made it just in time, you were faithful. You didn't quit. That's how you make it into God's Hall of Fame. It's not contingent upon how many great exploits or accomplishments you've achieved, but no, just were you faithful? See, because that's what that Hebrews chapter 11 is all about. It's the Hall of Fame of faith. And they're in there. They were tortured, sawn in two, not accepting deliverance. They had trials of scourgings and mockings and everything else. And they were in the Hall of Fame because God was pleased with them because they held fast and they did not quit. That's how you get in.